Hello and welcome back to the Life Winners podcast. Hope you all are doing all right. There's so much that happened this past week, and I'm very excited to jump into it. So I might just skip sort of an intro here and sort of jump into the things that happened this past week, because there really is so much to discuss. So this past weekend, Watches of Switzerland in New York City in Soho hosted an exhibition of the 2023 GPHG nominees, and it was really great to interact with, obviously, what the industry is deeming as some of the best watches of the year. And it was nice to see them all together. They had a really nice exhibit on both floors of the store, where you could basically had tables where each of the watch categories had all the watches laid out, and it was nice to kind of compare them between one another. There was a range of watches that I really liked. I'll try leave a link in the show notes of this podcast to the story that we made for the GPHG exhibit, because I think the pictures of these watches really do them justice. I'll speak through a couple of the things that I really enjoyed. I like the XRBY La Montre d'Art, which had a really beautiful enamel dial that reminded me of stained glass with a sapphire case that I thought was really, really beautiful. I think that is probably one of the watches that caught my attention the most, and I probably spent most of my time with that specific watch. There was a Zapek with two balance wheels that was really beautiful. A really nice sort of open work dial where you could see the movement very nicely, and I think it was really well constructed. I also had the opportunity to see the Christopher Ward repeater watch. Obviously, I've heard videos of that noise, but I asked them if they could actually play the repeater, and it was nice to actually hear it in person. It really is a different sort of experience when you are able to do that. Konstantin Chaikin's Louis Erard was really cool. The Konstantin Chaikin and Louis Erard collaboration was really cool to see in person, especially for its affordability, and I think it's very, very popular these days. There was a really nice this year. Tourbillons were really, really big. I feel like every brand, every watch that I almost saw had a tourbillon, but one of the ones that I really, really loved was this Louis Monet tourbillon with the dial was actually a puzzle, and I believe it was the puzzle pieces were enamel, I believe, or hand painted, and the image that they have on the dial is a tiger, which I thought was really beautifully done. I also had the opportunity to see the Voutilainen World Timer. I'll get back to this watch in a second, but it was nice to see that this was nominated. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of Kari and the work that he does. I'm so happy that he's having so much success, and I kind of learned about Kari Voutilainen through my love for MB&F and the work that Kari was doing with MB&F and Max, and so I'm really glad that he's sort of getting the recognition for what he's doing. I also had the opportunity to try on a couple Speak Marins, which is really great. Shout out to Watches of Switzerland for allowing me to try some of them on. I have had experiences with some Speak Marins, but I never really spent enough time learning about the brand and trying them on, and I think it really changed my perspective on the brand itself. Overall, the event was really cool. There were some really cool sales representatives at Watches of Switzerland that I had some great conversations with. They had a really nice bar where you could get a drink, and then they had tables where all the watches were laid out, and they had some of the awards too, which was kind of a cool little novelty to be able to experience. I really enjoyed the exhibition. It was a lot of fun and a nice way to sort of kick off the weekend. I went there on Friday, which was really nice, but it was showing the whole weekend. The next event that took place this weekend was Watch Time. Watch Time was having their annual event where they basically host a bunch of brands to showcase some of their watches. It was at the Gotham Hall, which was really nice, and it took place on Saturday and Sunday. I wasn't able to go on Saturday, but there were some really cool speakers. Kevin O'Leary spoke. about watch collecting there. They also had a pretty cool panel called The Return of the Dress Watch, where they had the director of client relations at Watch of Switzerland, and Chopard's international sales, Horology international sales manager. So they had a bunch of different speakers. I had the opportunity to go on Sunday, and so I was able to listen to the panel titled Best Alone, Best Together. And the excerpt is basically, for decades, watch brands have done an amazing job when it comes to creating new pieces on their own. Throw in an often unexpected partner to the mix, and stylistic, functional, and even environmental possibilities arise that have not only watch collectors going crazy. And there was Pascal Ravessois, VJ. Pascal was from the FHH, which was kind of cool to have an individual from the federation there. It was a different sort of perspective on things. VJ Geronimo from Oris, Carlos Rosillo from Bell & Ross, Adam Kranitos from Red Bar, and it was moderated by the editor-in-chief of Watch Time, Roger Ruger. It was nice to hear different perspectives on this concept. I think Oris was a pretty interesting voice in the mix, especially given the amount of work they do from an environmental perspective. And obviously, it was nice to hear perspectives from all of them. And overall, I thought it was a nice panel and a nice way to sort of kick off the Saturday. Of course, I took the opportunity to go and see some of the incredible pieces that the brands had on offer. If you are new to Life on the Wrist, you probably won't know that but if you are, pretty familiar with me or Life on the Wrist, you'll know that I am a huge MB&F fan. I've been an MB&F fan for a very, very long time. It's one of my all-time favorite brands. It was actually one of the first watches that I saw on Watch Instagram, which was quite interesting. But MB&F was at Watch Time New York, and so I stopped off there, got to try on their LM101. They had a Bulldog, and I believe I'm trying to think of what the other HM was. I want to say it was an HM3. I don't remember exactly on the left side, but they did have the LM Perpetual on the right hand side of their sort of display. So that was really cool to see. I apologize if you hear the fire trucks going off right now. I really apologize. But anyway, it was nice to see them at the exhibitions, chat with Cedric, who was there, and experience MB&F at another location in New York. As I did with the as I said with the GPHG exhibition, I'll try to leave a link in the show notes to the Instagram story where you can see some of the pictures from the Watch Time New York event. Moser was there, and they had an incredible box of basically all of their incredible pieces. So they had the watch that they made out of Swiss cheese. They had the collaboration with MB&F with the tourbillon and the sort of raised time display. They had the Apple Watch sort of gimmick that they made. A bunch of their absolute I called it a box of wonders because it really was basically every piece that you would want from H. Moser in that specific box. Another brand that I absolutely fell in love with over the weekend, and I mentioned it previously, was Speak Marin, and I got the opportunity to speak with them about the brand and hear about the pieces more. And I absolutely loved the design. The lugs really stood out to me, obviously, because they're quite novel. But from a complication perspective, construction, and just the people who I spoke with, it was a really great experience for me to experience the brand, and they did a wonderful job at the show, being inviting and sharing their knowledge about the brand, which was really, really cool. Another brand that did that very, very well was HYT. I didn't know a lot about HYT. I kind of had an idea about it, but what the brand basically is doing is creating fluid mechanical watches, and using fluids in their watches to assist in telling time. And so I don't want to rush through the explanation of how HYT watches work. What I will do, though, is feature them in another podcast and kind of talk through how it actually works, because, you know, from an innovation perspective, they are combining mechanical watchmaking, but they are also incorporating the idea of using fluids in telling time. And I think that's quite a novel idea and innovative. And it's something that I strive to kind of cover on Life on the Wrist, is to make sure that innovation is at the forefront of the things that I speak about. So there were some really cool pieces that they had featured there. The other thing that I had the opportunity to do was see the Konstantin Chaikin and Louis Erard collaborations. I got to try them on, which is really cool, and hear about the brand. I really liked the representatives there. They just, you know, it was like a no-nonsense sort of conversation, and they didn't sort of like stand on ceremony, which was quite nice. Kind of just tried to be as real as possible. So kind of refreshing and really cool to try them on. Up on the mezzanine level of Gotham Hall was some of the independents, and Vianney Halter was there, and Kari Voutilainen was there. And Kari really like blew me away. Like, Kari was, you know, I've been a fan of his for a very long time, and I had the opportunity to try on some of his pieces and meet him, and it was really cool to talk to him and see the watches. I brought a loupe so I could see them in more detail, and it's everything that I love about the brand. And so I encourage you to check out my Instagram story, because I was that person who asked to take a picture with Kari. So I do have a picture with him for my memories. I had the opportunity to see one of his unique pieces that he made. Shout out to Vanessa, Kari's assistant, because there are a lot of people who were looking to speak with Kari and see his pieces, and so I was, you know, trying to wait my turn, but she noticed that I was kind of like, you know, being, I guess, too respectful, and she kind of helped me get in to see the pieces. I also spoke to her about the fact that I saw the World Time at the Watches of Switzerland exhibition, and I thought it was incredible. And she was so kind and went over to Kari, who was actually wearing number 0 of 10 of the World Timer, and asked him to take it off his wrist, and she gave me the opportunity to see it for myself. And I was able to take a picture of it on my wrist, and it's probably the highlight of the weekend for me, was to be able to try that piece on, meet Kari, and because I mean that piece is 0 of 10, Kari Voutilainen's 0 of 10 World Timer that's nominated for a GPHG. I mean, it doesn't get better than that, and to end the weekend on that sort of note was incredible for me. So a huge thank you to Kari Voutilainen, to the Voutilainen brand, to Vanessa. It really was an incredibly humbling, but also an incredible honor to be able to enjoy that piece, and to enjoy a brand that or I guess a watchmaker that I had been following for quite some time. All right, so those were sort of the events that took place. There were a couple of things that's in the news that I wanted to talk about, or really one thing that I wanted to talk about. So it was announced that the Only Watch charity auction is being postponed. This is a pretty big step for Christie's auction to be postponed by an entire year. There was some interesting drama that kind of took place around the charity aspect of the Only Watch auction. It basically followed recent developments where, you know, Audemars Piguet removed themselves from being part of the auction because, you know, I guess the public wanted more financial transparency from the Only Watch organization. And so, you know, I'm not going to sort of pass judgment on this. I think the fact that they're postponing says something about the sort of outcry from the public. There was an interesting letter that FP Journe wrote in support of Only Watch and their mission. But then you had Audemars Piguet who withdrew. I know that the people have their opinions on pretty stark opinions on financial transparency of Only Watch, and we'll see what sort of comes of this over the next year. There was, I think I might have seen on Instagram, some sort of like unaudited financials that were released. I don't know if that was true or not, or where the financials came from, but we will have to see what ends up happening over the next year with this. I think, in my mind, I'm going to say that this is, Only Watch is doing things to really support muscular dystrophy disease, and to support the research behind it. And it's unfortunate from a charitable aspect that it's being postponed, and I hope that this comes to some sort of resolution, and the cause can continue to sort of live on. What is interesting, though, is that some of the pieces that were released are fairly monumental pieces for specific brands. I mean, the Pandemonium from MBNF that's being contributed, I mean, that's a one-of-one Pandemonium that H. Moser and MBNF did together, and it's pretty significant. There's also a Biver that's being sold there, and so these are watches that mean something to these brands, some of these brands very significantly. So, it does sort of change the course of what this is maybe a little bit over the top, but changes the course of history for some of these brands, because these pieces are not going to end up being sold. So, hey, I'm kind of just trying to throw my thoughts out there more than anything, but it is an interesting sort of aspect of this entire piece of this entire story that needs to be told. Anyway, that was some of the significant news that sort of happened related to Only Watch over the last little bit. The last thing I wanted to cover was some auction news. So Monaco Legend auctions took place this past weekend. It was quite a cool. Well, first off, I want to say a big congratulations to Monaco Legend Auctions for an incredible exclusive timepieces auction that they hosted. What was really refreshing about this auction was there were a lot of pieces, and I think they really did a great job of curating the selection. I think that's something that's difficult to do, but they managed to basically find something for everyone. And I think they balanced the idea of having historic and significant pieces with pieces that are staples to many in their collections. And so I think they balanced the idea of rare historical pieces and the idea that there needs to be some approachability with these auctions as well. One of the things that was sort of a through line through all of this was each piece that they curated was of exceptional quality and, in some sense of the word, an extremely beautiful piece. And I think that's something that's difficult to do when you're curating such a large auction. But I think the results sort of spoke to it, and I think they also did a great job of sort of gaining momentum and getting people involved and ready and excited about this auction. I know that I was very, very excited about this auction. So I wanted to talk through some of the pieces that I thought were quite cool results, and obviously significant in some way that sort of spoke to me. So lot 22, I'll put a link in the show notes to all these lots, so you can check it out there. Lot 22 was a Vacheron Constant, and this is what I'm saying from an approachability perspective. It was a reference 7375, which is a chronometer royale in yellow gold with a silver dial, and it's hours, minutes, seconds with a date complication at 3 o'clock. It's from 1968, incredible condition, sort of in this cushion form, real, late 60s or 70s sort of style watch, and it went for 9,100 euros. So again, it's like approachable in the in the relative sense of the term, approachable to many collectors, this watch, and you can participate in this type of auction to get this piece. Condition was incredible on it. I don't see a lot of 7375s out there. You could still see hallmarks between the lugs. It was an exceptional piece. One of the pieces maybe on the other end of the spectrum was Lot 68, which was the Rolex reference 6062 with an incredible sort of brown, like golden brown patina dial in this yellow gold watch. One of the things that I loved about this piece was the patina, and this watch was from 1953, and for me it was like a time capsule of an incredibly beautiful piece in incredible condition. You can still see the hallmark on the bottom lug. The case is super strong. All that sort of ages that dial, and it looks beautiful. Interesting, it was estimated to go between 200 and 400,000 euros, but it went for 266,000 euros. So interesting result in the grand scheme of things, but a beautiful watch itself. What was really cool about this auction as well, and I wanted to say this in the beginning, was Monaco Legend Auctions did a really great job of discussing the provenance of each of these pieces. So some of the watches that I'll speak about later, they actually reference where they last sold. And I think that is something that needs to be spoken about a little bit more in the auction world. I think there's not enough transparency around those types of that type of information. And I think Monaco Legend Auctions is basically what they're doing is educating the population on some of these pieces, and I think that's really a great thing. It's done in the art world. I don't know why it's not done enough in watch auctions, but it's done heavily in the art world. One of the highlights was definitely lot number 96, which was a Cartier. It was a fresh to market Magnum tank with a calendar moon phase, with a white lacquered and black Roman numerals dial, with a beautiful full pearl cabochon in the crown, and an Audemars Piguet movement. This is obviously an extremely rare piece. It also was fresh to market. It was in a private collection for 35 years. It was last sold, and again, like this is the type of information that they provided. They said it was sold at Antiquorum's Important Watches, wristwatches and clocks in Tokyo on the 15th of December 1989 for around 120,000 USD. Again, like this is the type of information that they were disclosing, and it allows people to know the provenance of these pieces. I really, really like the way that they're going about this, and it's a testament to those who are involved. Super rare, beautiful pearl cabochon in really great condition. This ended up selling for 416,000 euros. So much interest around that piece. One of the watches that I really loved was lot number 102, which was a very rare Daytona in steel with a blue prototype dial, reference 116520. It was estimated to go between 50 and 100,000 euros, and it went for 214,000 euros. It was from 2002, and one of the reasons why I like this watch so much is obviously the condition of this was really great. The came with basically everything that you would want in this watch, but I really loved the fact that during the auction of this piece, there were a couple of people that were competing for it, and it was really funny as the bid sort of went higher and higher. The individual the underbidder basically said, "I'm done. I'm gonna go shake the hand of the person who won it." And I thought that was really cool. It was actually sold by Bucher, and they've confirmed with Bucher that it was a prototype dial. They've confirmed everything sort of with them. So I don't know. I just thought that was a really nice sort of spirited bidding on that piece, and I really liked that. One of the pieces that was obviously the highlight for me was lot 108, which was a Patek Philippe reference 530 with a black glossy dial, yellow Breguet numbers, and leaf hands that was coming from the personal collection of John Goldberger. The 530 is an exceptionally rare piece. This piece is featured in John Goldberger's Patek Philippe Steel Watches book. It sold... there are other 530s with Breguet numbers that have sold in the past, and they sort of are referenced in this. this is obviously coming from one of the most important collectors, I think, of our age, an important reference and an important, I think, dial configuration. It was estimated to go between 250 and 500,000. It ended up going for 806,000 euros. I mean, it's a testament to John Goldberger and the watch. Incredibly beautiful and incredibly significant for Patek Philippe. Another Patek Philippe that was incredibly rare and significant was lot number 208. It was a fresh to market, possibly unique, and really, really well preserved, square cased, platinum center seconds Patek Philippe watch that was published in 300 Fabulous Vintage Watches, with this incredible dial, sort of design with Breguet numbers, leaf hands. Talk about a 1920s beauty. It also is incredibly rare, possibly unique in platinum, and sold for 754,000 euros. The high estimate was 500,000, and no wonder it went for more. It also came with its original box, pretty significant, to say the least. There was also a very interesting Rolex Daytona that had this mystery cross that was engraved on the back. It's a 6265 Paul Newman Daytona in steel from 1972. It was last sold in 2015 by Christie's and sold for 269,000 Swiss francs. There was some research that was done by Periscope who sort of linked them to the Alpine Research Group, and they did some work with Sir Edmund Hillary and the expeditions throughout the Himalayas. And so what it actually means, I think it's up for interpretation, but there is some research to point this to the Swiss Everest pioneers and being part of sort of that era of watches, and sold for 884,000 euros. Check out the pictures because it really is beautiful. The last watch I wanted to talk about was a reference 3835 that was retailed. It's a Rolex 3835 with it's a chronograph, champagne dial, yellow gold case, retailed by Ronchi in Milano from 1938. This watch is really striking because it has these triple step lugs, which is a nice detail to see on a Rolex. You don't typically see this type of thing on Rolexes on people's wrists every single day. The watch was also, again, exceptional quality, super cool design, so not Rolex in my opinion, but so Rolex at the same time. Super Art Deco in some ways, and it sold for 78,000 euros. High estimate was 80,000 euros. I think the triple step lug is just epic to see on a Rolex chronograph like this. So again, a huge congratulations to Monaco Legend Auctions. It was a great auction, beautiful pieces. As I said, throughout the whole auction, you had really high quality pieces, and that was the standard for every single one of your lots. And I think you did a nice job of weighing the significance of something like a 530 from John Goldberger and a really accessible, I think they sold an Omega Chronostop with a black and white dial for far less than that, than John Goldberger's 530. So you allowed for the auction to be accessible by all, and I think that was really phenomenal. All right, that was quite a long episode, but I'll leave links in the show notes to all the things that we discussed. I highly recommend you check out all of them while we kind of speak through them, speak through each of the topics. But if you didn't, go back and check out the links, because you really want to see these watches in with your own eyes. It's difficult to enjoy the watches without seeing them, because I think that's obviously something that we're all doing when we're consuming watches. With that said, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you want to get more content from us, you can check out the links in the show notes. We'll have our link to our website, our YouTube channel, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We're on all social media, so you can check out more content from us there. Stay tuned for this week's video. I'm very excited to jump into another one of the watches that we got in recently, so stay tuned for that. If you are feeling generous and wouldn't mind reading this podcast, it really does help me out. And if you are new to the Life from the Wrist podcast, be sure to follow us and share this with a friend who might be interested in watches. With this said, guys, thank you so much for listening to this podcast, and until next time.